Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness in the areas of conflict resolution, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Priscilla Dames. Priscilla's been speaking professionally for over 30 years, and the primary content that she speaks on is conflict resolution. She has spoken both nationally and internationally, and she's based out of Miami. Her latest book is called 99 Conflicts to Avoid. And she has a follow-up book coming out called 99 Conflicts to Avoid the Police. Priscilla, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Constance.
And we're glad that you were able to make it. Now, I'd like to kick off the show by asking you if you could tell the listeners a little bit about your business and how you help your clients.
My business is Wingspan Seminars, and it's interesting that I formalized this business about 10 years ago, but I've been doing this over 30 years, based in conflict resolution, but we have extended it, of course, after 30 years and added some other topics. Initially, I was discovered so as to speak by the Anti-Defamation League, so they trained me and sent me to all different racially tense situations all over Florida, and I'll always appreciate them for that. But from there, I went on and added on conflict resolution, started my doctorate. But since then, bullying, sexual minorities, conflict in the workplace, and how do you even recognize that there is violence within your children? What are they doing? And so there are all different types of aspects of conflict and violence that I cover.
Okay, awesome. Now, there's your line of work is so relevant and it's so timely with all of the things that we have going on in the world, the bullying, the police issues, the brutality issues, the issues in the classrooms. How did you get involved with conflict? I know, when you were, did it start when you were a little girl? Was it like, did you know, hey, I'm going to go into conflict resolution when I get, how did you get there?
Now, no one ever asked me that. That's a great question because, when I first started with the Anti-Defamation League, I was already a professional in the school system. But even prior to that, I was very involved with peace initiatives in Indianapolis. I do live in South Florida now, but even in Indianapolis, I think it was because that, in the first place, I must tell you, I'm very short, and now I'm past middle age, and the middle child and all those things that people say about the middle child, they fit me. So I think some of my concern about social injustices and the person that has a disadvantage, I think that's just been all around me because of who I am. I like being short. However, people will treat you differently when you are different, rather than just saying, oh, he's taller, shorter, fatter, skinnier, or whatever, different ethnicity. And so I think I've always had that within me to have that extra passion for that person that you see is visibly at a disadvantage or treated unfairly or differently. Mm-hmm. I think that was just been me ever since I was probably in middle school, because I was very involved in high school also.
Okay, interesting. I'm glad that you were able to tie that back, because it's interesting how the things that affect us when we're young manifest themselves and push us into different directions. And you dealing with the conflict as a youngster and how that manifested into the great work that you're doing now.
And you know what, Constance, it's so interesting. I'm glad you pointed it out that way, because people don't realize what happens to your child, the things that are in their environment, the people that they are around, the things that they hear, say. They remember those things. They remember the things that are outstanding, that are very positive, and they recall the things that strike them that are very, very negative. In high school, I'm African American, and I went to a predominantly white high school, and I was elected as the homecoming queen, and I was so excited about that. And I remember in my senior year, when it was time to get our little cards, because those days you had senior cards, and of course those cards were like the big thing, and it was an outside vendor. They refused to put homecoming queen as one of the things on my card because they did not believe I was homecoming queen.
Wow.
And by the time I, of course, reported it to my mom and she got on top of it, it was too late. I still have the cards, by the way. It was too late. So there's things like that that stand out to you, that you don't forget how you were treated unfairly for some reason.
That's very interesting that you say that, and I kind of got chills as you told that story. And I remember another story by Vincent and Elliot Lyons, the Lyons twins. They used to work at General Motors, and now they're senior executives, Fortune 500 company out of Missouri. But they were the tops in their class at a predominantly all-white school. They were like 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or something like that. Like the number, and typically there's 100% chance that they will get a full ride scholarship from that school with them doing that. This year, they not only didn't get a scholarship, but the principal gave a lecture to the other students about how there's no reason why they shouldn't have been better than these students here. So, yeah. So that's, that whole, that whole issue are things that, and you took that and you leveraged it to push you forward. And so did these two guys. So that's very interesting. In terms of taking, you call being short a disadvantage, but it's actually, an advantage in a lot of areas if you use
yes, it is. I could date anybody.
There you go.
I kind of like being different, by the way.
Right. Exactly. Different is good. Now, in terms of the type of clients that you help, can you describe your perfect client, your perfect prospect, someone like, okay, I can really add value to this organization?
I would call the perfect prospect a client, because I don't do therapy. It's not individuals. It's an organization. It's a school. It's a business. It's the one that realizes that there is a conflict and values the training, not one that is forced to check it off because someone above required a training. So, okay, I say I'm going to give you 3 hours, and by the time you get there and it's on the schedule, then you have 45 minutes so they could just check it off. The client that says, yes, there's conflict, or to prevent escalation, we need valuable training, and gives me the time and realize it for there to be sustainability. Either I could come back, and there are many different strategies. I can come back, there could be focus groups, or there has to be some follow-up by the staff and or the management team. So if you want sustainability, you can't just come, put a Band-Aid on it, and then go. There's got to be some follow-up to make sure everything is being followed through. So the perfect client is one who values the training and know there is a need for sustainability efforts.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, how do you go about solving their issues? What is your secret sauce?
Okay, there are two things. One, I think it's very, very important for them to realize, because I always have a consultation first, not just to tell you what I'm going to do, but to get a feel for that prospective client. Mm-hmm. I want you to understand that it must be holistic. If there is, for an example, a business that you want me to come in and just train the staff, let's say there's 10 people or 50, that's great. But what about the administration? You need those managers to be on the same page, and you need them to hear those same rules, regulations, guidelines, strategies that the others. Well, what about if there is additional people on the staff, such as people who work in the janitorial staff or people that work in the cafeteria? So you need other people too. If there's a problem, then you need the holistic training. In a school, it must be the faculty, the administration, and the youth. And if it's something that has to do with the youth, should their parents not know? So the best training is the holistic type of training. I think there's one thing that many trainers leave out, and the client doesn't realize. There's so much value to holistic training. If someone says there's a lot of conflict here in this company or on this staff, faculty, for an example, so you come and train just that one entity. But what about the administration or the managers? What about the students or the parents? So if there is conflict going on, then we cannot do just one part and expect there to be sustainability. You need to train all facets. They don't have to be trained at the same time. You could do the faculty, the administration, and then you could do the youth or the parents. And it doesn't matter if it is a school, a business, or any type of entity. The Overtown Youth Center in Miami, as a matter of fact, they wanted that. I trained the staff, I trained the parents, and I trained the youth, and I just thought that was brilliant of them. I did not have to talk them into it. That's what they wanted. So that way everybody is on the same page. They know the different ways to handle the conflict. But the second part of that, when you said, what is your magic, that training and that format is superb. That's what's needed. But my personal magic, I believe, and I've been told, that is being able to read and feel my audience. I rarely stay on a stage. So whether it's a training or it's speaking, even when I'm speaking, I come off of the stage with the mic. And I was a teacher for many, many years. I've taught primary through university level. And things have changed today, but I'm seasoned enough that I am not afraid of touching people, whoever they are. So I will touch them on the shoulders, on the back. And I think that's important. We don't touch each other enough. People need to know that you've been there, you empathize with their story or what's going on. And I think reading the audience and being able to feel them is important. I've had adult men come to me on a break sobbing about whatever the topic is, and which has surprised me sometimes, but you don't know where it's going to come from. But I think that's so important to really understand your audience and why they are there. And it's not always what's written on paper.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of diving into conflict resolution, I'd like to get your honest opinion on the concept of bullying, and I would like to share with you my perspective. It seems like everyone or many people are trying to eradicate it altogether. But going back to my childhood and the experience that I had with the bullies that I encountered, that I had to strategize, that I had to deal with, in some cases had to physically fight, I really appreciate them today as an adult because it taught me many things. It taught me how to deal with the bullies that we actually have today in corporate America, and we've got political bullies, and how to navigate and deal with them. So it seems to me like we may be raising a future generation of weaker individuals because they have not been given the tools and strategies to deal with that. It's kind of like there's some type of bird that if the mother opens up the shell too quickly, the bird falls and they die because they haven't developed those muscles to be able to open that shell themselves. So anyway, I want to throw that back to you and get your feedback on that.
I really appreciate you saying first, instead of going straight to children, you go straight to corporate America. I'm looking on my wall right now. I had a column at one time, and the very first article I wrote, and the title was Bullies in the Workplace. Mm-hmm. And then if you remember the situation in the Dolphin camp with Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito, I wrote, it was titled, Bullying in the Workplace is Way Too Common, even in the Dolphin camp. And I was surprised that the Miami Herald published it in its entirety because my purpose was to point out bullying is everywhere. Children in preschool bully. Adults bully in the workplace. Bullying goes on even in the NFL. On your job, my job, bullying is everywhere. Children learn how to bully from adults. Our modeled behavior is teaching the children every single day. We forget that. And as far as strategies, they're very, very similar. Now, when you're bullied as a child, of course, we always say, tell the teacher. You absolutely must tell your parent what's going on, and the parent must come to school and help to get on top of it, because sometimes the teachers are not aware. Well, in that same stroke on your job, you must tell someone too. But the first thing you have to do, and this is as a child or as an adult, no matter what age, you must stand your ground. Bullies are smart. Bullies are smart. They are selectively making that decision, who am I going to bother? Why is it that they won't bother that real popular guy over there? And bullies are not always big. Sometimes they're the smallest one. Sometimes they have a Napoleon complex. But they're selective. So they may try you first, and depending on what your comeback is, that helps them to decide if you're going to be the one. So you've got to show, you said that weaker person, they're looking for that person. You've got to show, oh no, you picked the wrong one. And this is a 5, 15, or 35-year-old. You picked the wrong one. You will not bully me. And you have to be firm and look that person in the eye. It's your behavior that causes them to come back to you over and over and over again, or not, or not. So if you show that you will cower, that you will take it, that you won't come back, that you seem afraid right up front, pow, they've got you.
They got you.
Because you can be afraid and still come back. But it's how you come back that will indicate to them if you're the one or not.
Yeah.
Yes, those skills have not been taught to that child. And that's why that child does not know what's a friend, for an example, and how to come back. Because very often it's relational bullying. That bully was someone that was a friend. He said, well, what happened? We thought y'all were friends. And that's the one that's 5 or 25. We thought y'all were friends. And now she's calling you names. She's embarrassing you in public.
Right.
That's not your friend.
Right.
They were not taught
Right.
the skills of how to pick and choose or get rid of someone that you thought was a friend.
Yeah. And there's certain levels that absolutely need to be dealt with on the bully level, but then there's others where it's almost like when a kid wanted to fight me or tried to fight me, and I came home and I told my mother, and she gave me counsel on how to deal with this, which was like the anti-bullying, how to deal with this, stand your ground counsel. And it's like, okay, either you take care of that or I'm going to take care of you was the message that I received. So I went out and I took care of that. And in some cases I took care of literally two guys at once, with trying to be Bruce Lee, which was my hero at the time. But those were the kind of things that that little counsel but now it's kind of like everything is being, and we're trying to protect you from everything. We don't want any, we don't want a dust particle to get on you. We don't want, anything to, and then the misclassification. There also seems to be a mislabeling of bullying also, where things that, may not be our calling. We used to play the dozens back in the day, your mother, whatever. Yes. And now, and those were kind of, that helped me to be quick on my feet, quick thinking, and to be able to come back. But now, that may be considered bullying. Okay. You're talking about this person, even though it was done in jest.
Yeah, because teasing and bullying are two very, very
there you go.
different things.
Exactly. But
there's a workshop called Teasing versus Bullying.
Oh, okay.
And how do you know the difference? Because sometimes people will label a child as a bully, and they truly were just teasing with their friends.
Right.
So there's a difference. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Now, in terms of you actually going into the workplace, engaging with your clients, what are some of the popular misconceptions about your service, and how do you dispel those?
Well, it's very interesting. A major concern always is time. We Americans, that microwave world we live in, we want to rush. We just don't have the time for training. And the time often is more of concern than the cost, because they've got to get back to work. How long do you need? And they want you to come in for just that hour. Well, no, if you really want a difference, you need a half a day, and some of the trainings go up to 3 or 4 days, but you cannot make much of a difference in an hour. But the cost is always bigger than preventing an intervention. The negative outcome is much more costly than the training. But that's a huge concern, the time factor. People tend to be an ostrich, and they stick their heads in the sand rather than facing the conflict, and that's a misconception. Conflict it doesn't disappear. It escalates when it's ignored, and people tend to think, well, they'll solve it. They'll find resolution, so the manager will keep going because they don't want to take the time. Well, if you automatically have the preventative training, and when it's preventative, it's not called conflict resolution because you're on the front side of it. So it may be called diversity training. So that's team building. So that's getting to know everyone. And that actually is one of the essential components of a conflict resolution program. Number one is community building, just helping everyone to understand each other, including the diversity of their personality and conflict styles. All of that is part of it. Another misconception is that if there's not a lot of noise, that's good. Peace is quiet. Well, peace is not quiet. Often there's a calmness before the storm. And you learn a lot about that. I am credentialed in King and Nonviolence. You learn a lot about that under the Gandhi's principles and Martin Luther King's principles, that peace and quiet are not synonymous. And so you have to go on the inside. Sometimes there's a calmness there because there's fear. So you've got to go on the other side of that to find out what's going on in the environment. And you must work on a relationship. Conflict is normal. Because there's conflict doesn't mean you have major problems. That's normal. So what you must do with the conflict is make sure it's productive. So you use that conflict to learn to be more creative and to find an understanding and then move on. So all of those are serious misconceptions about conflict, and they harm. They harm.
Yeah.
You cannot ignore it.
Yep. I agree. Now, with the last 60 seconds that we have here, I would like for you to leave the listener with one thought or concept, whereas if they don't receive anything else from this interview, this is what I would like for them to be left with.
Our mantra, it really is, because people are afraid of the word conflict. That's so negative. I don't want anybody to know that there's negative going on. And so I took that out of my byline, and now it's while creating positive environments. And if you think about that, that really is what getting on top of the conflict is, because we want a peaceful environment. And if there's not peace, that means there's someone that's not getting along in conflict that needs a fix. So conflict is nothing more than a relationship needing a fix, and you want to be involved in a positive home and work environment, but you have to work on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, conflict can be positive and productive. You know, in sports, there's conflicts every Saturday, every Sunday, and with positive results. Now, if the listeners would like to contact you, learn more about your services, and possibly engage with your organization, what's the best way for them to do that?
And I must say, I do have a team. I can't do everything by myself. And they cover just the whole span, whether it's sexism, law enforcement, in the educational system. And they can call 305-804-4627. And my website is www.wingspanseminars.net. That's WINGSPAN. Seminars is plural, SEMINARS. And right now I'm working with veterans, and I've worked with ex-militants. So whatever your needs are as far as conflict management.
Okay, excellent. Well, Priscilla, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was very, very powerful information that you shared with the listeners, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.